Not recording. All right, good to go.
Well, hello, good evening, Human Services Commissioners. It is July 17th. It's about 6:32. Welcome. First item, call to order. Do we have quorum?
Thank you, Jaime. Yes, we do have quorum. We have commissioners in present, and we have Maury Edwards, who is an excused absent tonight, and everybody else is here. Thank you. And then we also have a couple of members here. I want to point out, first off, Elena Hanover here. She has been our student intern, working with our Human Services Commission, helping out with minutes, doing incredible work. She has graduated Issaquah High School and is now going to be attending University of Washington. So just want to take this opportunity to thank her commitment to her work and say thank you. And we are wishing you the best of luck for your next adventures. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I also want to take this opportunity to have an introduction from one of our newest members on our Human Services team. So first off, I'm going to invite our manager here, Monica, to introduce our new staff.
Thanks, Hannah. Good evening, Commissioner. So nice to see you. This is Monica. I have the pleasure to introduce you Kyle Miklich. He's our newest staff on the Behavioral Health and Homeless Outreach team. He joined us in June. And so that completes our team of 4. You might remember last year as we worked with City Council who approved additional resources to increase our team of behavioral health and homeless outreach staff to make it a team of 4. The team works with the police department in doing co-response and community response for any 911 calls that have a behavioral health component and also homeless outreach. The team has been really busy. Yesterday they responded to 6 calls just in the first part of the day, and everybody else today was very busy until close to 5 o'clock, just responding to several crisis and homeless outreach responses. So very, very fortunate to have Kyle with us. He brings a wealth of experience in working with adults and kids in crisis, and I'm gonna let him say a few words if he wants to, but welcome to the team.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you all, attending for the first time. Just grateful to be here, happy to be a part of the city of Issaquah, working with a lot of great people and working in the community.
Great. Now, is your team fully staffed now?
The team of 4, yes, the behavioral health team, yes.
That's huge. That's
yeah.
great.
Yes, we are very excited. So we do have one of our staff, Amir. You might know him. He was the first staff that we hired. He's going on paternity leave in a few weeks. So
He's going
to say paternity leave. But we still have a great team that's gonna cover. So
When does he do?
he is due in September.
And actually end of August, they keep moving up the date. So
Oh,
yeah, so any day I'll be welcoming a new baby girl.
Oh, but he'll be back.
I know, he'll be back. So anyway, we'll let Kyle leave. He actually works evenings and he still has some work to do for tonight. But yeah, if you have any questions, commissioners, feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you, Kyle.
Perfect. Thank you guys. It was nice meeting you all.
Yeah, Kyle, thanks so much for swinging by to meet these wonderful commission groups.
Of course.
Do you specialize in any areas?
When you say any areas, what do you mean
I
specifically?
mean, you got 4 guys, people now on your staff. Are you guys splitting that up, or everyone do everything?
Everyone, everyone kind of does everything. So we're all just
A lot of great work.
responding in whatever's coming up in the moment and who's available and trying to assess what the needs of the situation as to how, depending upon who we need to send, trying to be mindful of who to send depending upon the situation and circumstances. But we all kind of have a skill set and are doing we're all doing all the work.
Kyle, maybe you want to share a little bit of your background before you joined City of Issaquah. I know commissioners would be pretty impressed with the work that you've done and your connections to Issaquah prior to this.
Sure. Yeah, so I was born and raised in Colorado, went to the University of Colorado. I started working with at-risk kids in the city of Denver for a few years before I decided to move to Washington and kind of just start a whole new chapter. I started working at a juvenile facility with incarcerated kids. I worked there through various positions over almost a dozen years. There was a point in time where I had left the full-time work there and had worked with Adult Protective Services. I worked on both their intake team, and I was a training program manager to train their intake workers as well as their investigators. And I was there about 2.5 years before going back to work full-time with the kids for another 2 years. And then that's how I ended up here in Issaquah. I lived in Issaquah for about 1.5 years. And I've been playing basketball at the community center for about 10 years. Jaime and I actually go way back. We put the kids together and played a lot of basketball together. And so I spent plenty of time here with friends here and living here and, spending time in the community, and just absolutely loved it. And everything kind of pointed me back.
That's great.
I know they would just love that story. So wanted to encourage that.
Yeah, the short version of that story. The very big.
I think it helps to live in the community that you're helping with human services.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, not everybody can live in Issaquah, but I mean, I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, you get to know it better, learn it better, know the people, the area, what's available, what's not available. Yeah.
And you just know the vibe.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
Well, thank you for allowing us to put you on the spot.
Oh, no worries. No worries at all.
Yes, I'll invite you back soon.
Oh,
So don't worry.
You know where
it's
to-
not over.
You know where to find me.
That's true.
It was lovely meeting you all.
Thank you. Have a good one.
And Jaime, before we end call to order, I forgot to bring one other order to our commission. I think I had a chance to update most of folks individually, but just wanted to formally give an announcement that Commissioner Keena Ahmed has moved out of state due to her husband's employment. So she has done incredible work in our subgroup. So she's still been a great participant in this process, but unfortunately has had to step back down from her position. So in that left a regular position open. So we've asked Commissioner Lucrecia Choto to step in to the regular role of Keena. So want to thank Lucrecia for stepping into that position, and of course, we would just really appreciate Keena and all the work that she's also done for this process and for our commission in the last year. So thank you I just remembered I needed to share that. So thank
We
you.
are gonna miss Keena.
Yes.
The next thing we have is the approval of minutes. The minutes were sent in our packet from May 15, 2024. The minutes were included in the agenda pack. Are there any corrections to it?
Can I move that we approve the minutes?
Yes.
Commissioner Fish, moving to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Bloor, second.
All right, we're gonna move on to agenda item number 4. This is where we had conversations around nominations for vice chair.
Yeah, so I'll step in real quick and just remind folks, so it's been a while since we've met last, but back in May, when we had our last regular Human Services Commission meeting, we had the action item of voting for chair and vice chair. And so we voted in Jaime for our chair position. And then we had 2 nominations for vice chair, Commissioner Manning, Commissioner Huma. And so since then, Huma, I don't know if you would like to provide an update.
I'm still here.
Okay, perfect. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I know you can't see me, so I decided to interrupt. I hope that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I accepted a nomination for vice chair, but Manny was also nominated, and I am happy to put it up for a vote, and hopefully Manny takes a position.
So, I just want to clarify, are you stepping down from your nomination?
I am stepping down from the nomination, yes.
Okay, just clarify. Wonderful. Well, Huma, I just want to first off thank you for being willing to step into the position and being flexible with the situation. So
Happy to serve when and where needed.
yes, perfect. So we have a nomination for Manny Brown, and then we pushed a pause on there. So to move forward, we will need a second.
Oh, I second Commissioner Brown.
Okay, you want to do it, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Very confident, yes. Thank you, Manny.
That's a simple answer.
Well, because we've asked you in the past, and yeah, okay, good.
Yes, and it's all Preston's fault. because, you know, Professor reminded me that to help the younger folks step up, they have to see others step up, so. Yeah.
Well, we're very proud of you, Commissioner Manny Brown, for stepping up into vice chair. So we had a second.
I second, yeah, Commissioner Fish second.
Congratulations.
Oh, and you too.
Well, yeah, so we do need the official. So we have a second, and then do we have any? Then we need an official vote.
There's deliberations after it's second.
Did I say second to that motion?
I think that's it.
What-
Do we have unanimous consent, or would we like to?
Oh, no,
So commissioners, after somebody seconds, then yeah, rightfully, so you as a chair, you would ask if there any discussion.
That's right. Any discussions from the group for Vice Chair Manny Brown?
I guess I already did by saying you want it, right?
That's true.
I hear none. The nominations are closed.
And now we vote.
Yes, and we proceed to voting.
Okay. Do we just say let's vote in terms of, okay?
And you can decide as a chair if you want, if you have enough just to have a thumbs up from commissioners, or if you can decide to just do a full roll call and have everyone say yes or no, but it doesn't seem necessary, right? So you can just ask also commissioners to say yes or no, yes for those.
Would the commissioner group say yes or no, and Vice Chair for Manny Brown?
Yes.
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 Okay, we'll move forward. Congratulations, Manny Brown.
Well, it's on, Manny. Excellent campaign.
We have the next agenda on the item is B for 2025-2026 Human Services Grant Subgroup Draft Recommendations and Report Out, presented from Hannah.
Thank you so much, Jaime. Excellent work. Commissioners, before I get this started, I know you've heard me say this over and over, but I cannot stop saying it. Thank you so much. Seriously, the hard work, the time that you all went into looking at almost 100 applications and making, as you all struggled figuring out who to grant the awards to and how much. It is no easy task. So I appreciate all the time and the intentionality behind this process. So tonight, let me share my screen here, and I'm going to start us off with our presentation, but then I will be handing it back to you, commissioners, to do official reporting. All right, just give me a second to get this up. Okay. All right, so the purpose of this evening's commission meeting and this subgroup report out is to have each commission's report provide draft recommendations for the 2025 and 2026 Human Services grants. And I also want to present as a possible action, if the commissioner, after deliberation and discussion, feel ready, there can be a formal decision on the recommendations that are presented tonight. So we can decide that at the end of our process. So just a reminder here, there were a total of 95 applications that were received and reviewed, and 60 organizations with over a $2 million in requests of funding. For each annual year, we have $612,618. You've seen this slide a few times now. This is just a reminder of how we came up with the funding amount. So it is the average of the calculation amount of 2025 and 2026. And I just want to point out here, these are our subgroups. In the physical and behavioral health, we received 22 applications. And we have $123,000 allocated to this amount. For housing continuum, we had 20 applications that our subgroup reviewed. And in this amount, it was originally $145,000, and we have changed the amount to $165,000. Then we have our cultural and specific and language access amount. This is $172,000 available. And then our community resource is $152,618. You all know those numbers well. So just as a reminder, kind of what our grant review process has looked like, just as a recap, we have 4 review subgroups. Each subgroup had 2 commissioners in the review process. The subgroups were the Human Services Strategic Priority Areas. So the applications were categorized under those priority areas that we saw in our previous slide. And in that time, we had commissioner review and deliberation in the subgroups, discussing the applications that you all reviewed. This happened back in June and July. And now we are here today for our large report out human services discussion. And just as a reminder, our focus and prompt in the review process was making sure that the applications that were recommended did align with our human services strategic plan, prioritizing some local access and program impact, and making sure that it met the Issaquah needs and had an equity lens, program and organization. So we are about to do our report outs, in which I'll invite each commissioner from a subgroup to report out. And just as a reminder, in this report out process, would love a few sentences on just a debrief of what the process was like for you. What were some highlights? What were some challenges that you felt? If you'd like to share any of that process. And then in that, if you can define what your priority area is, just to help remind commissioners who are not in that subgroup. And then, of course, just stating the amount of the funding amount recommended. I also want to point out, I printed out for just reference for this evening in the agenda packet is each group's subgroups recommendation amounts and programs for reference. And then these are just a friendly reminder. I know some folks in this room have what we call conflict of interest. So if you are associated with that program, I kindly ask and remind you to not speak for behalf of an organization or an application. And just to remind you all that we really just, as you all know, this process can be challenging. And so we are very fortunate to have a human services strategic plan to really help guide our decisions. So I just want to point everyone back to that and not to bring in what we did in our equity training, some of our biases and some of our personal preferences. So any questions before we move on for our first report out? Excellent. Okay. All right. I would like to invite Commissioner Manny to present on community resources.
Right. Hello, this is Commissioner Brown. First of all, I found this year's process very challenging. With so much need and having to wrestle with the financial restraints that you have to deal with this year, plus the complication and aftermath of COVID didn't help at all. I felt a tug on my heartstrings every time I had to say, sorry, not this time. City of Issaquah's Human Services Strategic Plan allowed me to focus.
Sorry.
Allowed me to focus on what we needed to do as through the strategic planning. And also the city helped me, well, the plan helped me to gather myself up and figure out, okay, is this what we're looking for? And I like to give kudos out to those people who were helped develop that plan, because it did help me a lot. And also, Hannah was amazing.
Thanks.
But our group, Commissioner Murray Edwards and myself, were in the Community Resources subgroup. The subgroup included strategic actions to help sustain existing community resources and help residents connect to needed services. Supports included food, clothing, hygiene, first aid supplies, affordable childcare, educational, employment services, legal services, and technology access, and also transportation options. With many of the different subcategories, we prioritize local and accessible programs that align with the Human Services Strategic Plan. We reviewed 26 applications. The request was 457,000 plus, and we had 152,000. So we had to make some tough choices. After deliberation, we recommended 12 programs of the 26 that applied, and you can see the details in your pamphlet that we have.
Mhm.
Like I said, it was a tough decision. So many good programs that we just couldn't help out this year. I encourage all these programs to reapply next time around. Any questions?
Just an observation, Commissioner Brown, is just you look at the requested amount of $457,510 and the available amount, it must have been super challenging to narrow it down to some of the needs within the city of Issaquah.
It really was. We really focused on what was available in Issaquah and where we get the most bang for the buck. And a lot of things that are actually located here was really paramount to making that decision. And some things we just had to let go of, and it was really tough. Any other questions? Thank you.
Excellent work. Great presentation. Okay.
As a staff, if I may.
Yes.
I thank you. This is Monica. Again, thank you so much, Manny and Maury. I know I've been part of these cycles a couple of times before, and this year Hannah's done an outstanding job in working with all of you. But as you mentioned, just looking at the numbers, you basically had about a quarter of the money available, and you still found a way to fund almost half of the organizations in that category. So again, that speaks to volume two, really trying to make it work and trying to fund as many organizations as possible, while staying true to the strategic plan and like you said, getting the most for the money that are invested. So thank you. Outstanding. And you're also a volunteer commission, so we are humbly aware of that. So thank you for the many hours that you put into this.
I haven't read during my vacation time.
Ooh.
Bonus points.
In Mexico, sunset.
Oh, okay.
New recommendation.
But like it speaks just, it's still humbling for us as staff, right? Because you're a volunteer, but you volunteers, and yet, yes, you take out time from your vacation. You wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning when you're across, it's humbling to hear that commitment and that dedication. So thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, with that, commissioners, are you okay if I move on to our next report? Okay, great. I'm going to invite Chair Jaime to step in and do a report out on our physical and behavioral health.
This was I would say, for myself and working with Lucrecia and then Hannah, in terms of looking at the applications, reviewing the applications, what's recommended, what's not, similar to Manny. I think, and then Lucrecia, you can more than welcome to step in, is I think having the grant review card and then, sticking to the strategic plan and the equity training we had in April, I think speaks and trying to make sound decisions when it comes to access of behavioral and physical services in the city of Issaquah. One of the things that came up from us was the local access versus regional impact. So one of the things we're looking at is maybe duplicate services or not. And that kind of came forward as how do we utilize the funds that are coming in for the most impact of our marginalized folks here in the city of Issaquah. So that was tough, and back and forth with deliberation. And I think we came forward with 22 programs reviewed, 10 programs recommended, and similar to the first slide is just the need is super high. But I feel pretty confident with the folks that are going to move forward and make an impact in the physical and behavioral health services here at City of Issaquah. Anything you want to add, Commissioner Lucrecia, to it?
No, I think that basically what you and Manny have stated is probably something that is worth emphasizing, just the difficulty in making a decision, because I think other than one program that we reviewed that we really were kind of like, why are they applying with us? Everybody else just seemed to be serving our community and or the region, like you just mentioned. And so I think there's a part of me that wants to have like a sidebar conversation with regards to where can we get more funding to either more deeply fund the programs we identified or that we recommend, or having the pie spread a little wider. That's about it. Thank you.
That is our report out for physical and behavioral health.
Any follow-up or questions? Excellent work. Thank you both.
Mhm.
And Lucrecia, thank you. I know you've been abroad, so thank you so much for making it a point to be a part of this process very intentionally. So thank you very much.
And I will speak to additional funds in a few minutes.
Thank you. All right, next we have our report out for our cultural and specific and language access group, and I'm going to invite Commissioner Trish to do our report out.
Okay. Okay, I see 12 here.
Oh,
For
Or that we
culture
recommended,
specific,
that we recommended for programming. Everything that's in blue, right?
mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
I think one of them had double, I don't know if you count that as well.
And anyways, maybe,
I see one's mislabeled as it should have been in our behavioral health category.
oh, okay.
But it also depends, I think, are you?
yeah, which page are you looking at? Because are you,
I'm looking at the cultural specific and language access.
right, and then what's the top of your next page?
You mean if I flip it over?
I see 10. Yeah, I
Okay.
think you're looking at.
Mine
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
here.
Yeah.
They're not numbered.
Sorry, it's very,
It's
it's a little confusing with the printout.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's how it's,
okay, okay. All right.
but thank you.
Well, Huma, are you still there?
She may have had a second.
Okay, well, we had the interesting and challenging experience of, our group was then further divided into all of the other subgroups. So we had to deal with, the basic needs or community resources under cultural specific. We had to deal with the housing continuum under cultural specific. And I know I'm missing one. And then the other one,
The housing continuum,
the housing continuum, and then there's another one.
the physical and behavioral health.
Behavioral health, thank you. Yeah, so with a cultural lens. And so we actually, as we were working with Hannah the second time, we kept on quizzing her, well, what's going on with the housing continuum? And, because we did have some significant requests that did fall into cultural specific housing continuum that we wanted to fund. And these are going to be new programs for our community. One is For Tomorrow, which is culturally specific for the Hispanic community. And then we have the MAPS group that submitted a program in the housing continuum, basically their rental assistance program. And we are recommending funding for that for the first time. So yeah, so we kind of kept on flipping back into the other programs, saying, okay, what are they doing for this? Because it does look like we are going to be putting a lot more. A recommendation for funding for housing continuum is going to be a lot greater this cycle than it was last cycle, and there's huge need. And it was nice because both Huma and I were able to bring some of our background and experience in the community and what we know about these different organizations And like Human was incredibly helpful about the MAPS organization in the Muslim community. So I was so glad that she got assigned this. Yeah. Everything that you all pointed out was an emphasis for us. We wanted to make sure that it was a local need and that people could access it readily. So if it wasn't, you know, a organization that was here in Issaquah or Sammamish, it was one that they could access easily. Maybe they had to drive there, or maybe, you know, through virtual communication, but we did really want to make sure that they had easy access to it. And there were some organizations that, you know, would have been nice to fund, but they just weren't going to be easily accessible to our community. We also tried to, because the senior, what's the name of the senior group in Sammamish?
Eastside Friends of Seniors.
Yeah, because they were not able to get their application in on time, we did try and figure out, okay, are there programs that we could fund that would help the senior community? And we did fund the MAPS Senior Services Program. So that was, so that was a focus because we didn't have funding for that. Yeah, and I know that you're going to still work on finding other opportunities to provide funding for seniors.
Yes, so we still work with Eastside Friends of Seniors, whether Human Services grants funding or funding them or not, they still provide services to Issaquah.
Right.
And so we still partner with them closely to support them and find other avenues for funding.
Right, right. And a lot of them, several of them, actually, we were able to fund 100% of what they were asking for, which was nice. And we felt they were such an important contribution that we felt very comfortable giving them 100% of what they asked for. Huma, I just want to make sure she has an opportunity to add to that. She's probably putting kids to bed. Anybody have any questions?
Just as an observation, Commissioner, that is a large number there in terms of what was requested and what was available in terms of all categories. So I can assume that it was probably very challenging to, look at the need and then trying to parallel to the strategic plan, to our mission, vision, values, and see what has impact.
Yeah. Well, we had several that came, at least two that came in over 100 grand request. And, our largest grant is 42 grant recommendation. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a larger overall bucket of requests.
And commissioners, if I can just add an observation on my end as staff in looking at our previous cycle, cultural specific and language access was actually our smallest group. And with a funding request, or they had a funding request available of around $90,000 in this category. And so I think it speaks volumes of what we are seeing in our community of the needs and what type of organizations are really stepping up in our community. That those amounts, I think, speak to that. So it's very exciting to see a large portion being able to go to some of our cultural specific organizations.
Mm-hmm. I might add, just because it's a point of interest, I attended virtually the Human Services Commission for Bellevue two nights ago. Was it 2 nights ago? Where they were presenting their recommendations. And they're very much trying to up their funding opportunities for the cultural sector. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Commissioner Trish and Huma. We have our next one.
Yes, one more report out, housing continuum. And before I invite Commissioner Madeline to step in, I'm going to invite Monica here to provide some additional information. As you can see, this one slide, it looks a little bit different.
Thanks, Hannah. And again, thanks so much, commissioners. So I think in working with Hannah and hearing from all of you, I think what we heard is that, right, rightfully so, the need is so much greater than the funds that we have available. And so in that, especially since this funding cycle, we received for the first time over $2 million in requests. In previous years, the requests have always been around $1 million, 1.2 million, 1.2 million was last time, and about the same the previous cycle. So it's really the request and the need was double, yet our funds are not double. And so as we were brainstorming, we are trying to look for one-time funds. And we are working currently with the city administration to try to see if we might be able to access some other funds that we can then leverage to use for the housing continuum section in particular, but for others as you may see fit if needed. I don't have at this point in time any information if those funds will become or not available, but to respect your time and your work, what I had worked with Hannah and what we came up with. And again, thank you, Commissioner Madeline and Tina, for doing a little bit of extra work, was to provide a list of recommendations if you just had the funds available as is, and then also provide another list of recommendations if funds do become available. So just a little bit for you all to be informed of that. And definitely we hope, as you know, in terms of timeline, you are making and giving these recommendations to the mayor next month. And typically Mayor Polly includes these recommendations into the city's biennium budget request to city council, who will then take action on them later on this fall. So we will know later on if these one-time funding requests will become available. But at this point, we just thought about just doing the due diligence work and trying to make recommendations. And if they do become available, great. If not. So that's why you're going to see 2 sets of recommendations. And thank you again.
Yes, I think, can I go?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
up. Thank you.
Commissioner Fisher. I think most people here have already outlined that some of the tools available to us during this process, specifically the strategic plan and the grant review card, are really helpful tools. And am I right that not every East Side city has a strategic plan?
Correct.
So I think that's a really useful and practical tool. So when we talk about highlights and challenges, for me, that's definitely a highlight. Another highlight was working with Kina. I felt like we were just really aligned and both had questions that we were willing to do the research on to figure out challenges. You've all spoken to this. So much need, not enough money. How do you make those really hard decisions? If you look at the packet, you'll see where they put in the extra column if additional funds are available. So just to give you an idea about what that would look like. We reviewed 20 applications that had requested a total of $524,000. There was $165,000 available after much discussion and a lot of helpful guidance from Hannah. Thank you. We recommend 10 of the 20 programs that applied with the funding amount as is. You can see what we would do with the additional money if it was granted. With the additional funds, we tried to prioritize the most expensive services and the high needs for emergency financial assistance and the support of more regional shelters. Happy to, if I can provide enlightenment, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So your additional funding, you also added on to what you already funded. And then.
In some cases we did, and in some cases we didn't. So you can kind of see the ones that went up and the ones that stayed static. And then there were a few programs that we didn't recommend for funding, but if the additional funds came in, you can see what we allocated based on the availability of additional funds.
And I guess ballpark, how much additional funds are we asking for or looking for?
Yeah. We asked for about $130,000, but then split in 2 years, that's about $65,000 per year.
Is that what you work with?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we decided to work on this category because in post-COVID times, what we heard this past year, the highest need being continued increase in rental assistance funds and shelter availability. And so that seemed to be, among all the needs, that seemed to be the highest of the highest. Open to.
I have a question, because I know that Snoqualmie Valley Shelter Services rebranded themselves sometime last year to Reclaim. And then through my work with Issaquah Community Services, I have tried to get in touch with Reclaim and have had a real difficult time.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if we could get an update on how they're doing now. I did notice that they've got a brand new, nice looking web page, right, or website.
Yes, and actually I visited them just last week, I believe. So they went through a lot of changes. They were able to purchase a new location, so they were not able to stay at the location where they are at. So they rebranded, they went through a lot of organizational challenges, but currently, so they are in a new location, they purchased a new site. They are fully staffed and they provide at the site where they are at, they are providing severe weather emergency shelter in a congregate model. And the rest of their service is provided in a motel setting, similar with our emergency housing program. And so they provide case management. They do great work. They continue to do great work. They just had to go through a change in their process. And
Well, that's good to hear.
yeah, and then they're available. Yeah, I visited them in person. I visited their new site. So if you have a chance, they would welcome visits. And
Great.
Their new site is beautiful and very welcoming for people.
I do think they went through a rough time during the transition. I mean, like
Well, they had COVID after COVID spread, and then they had quite a few challenges, and
They lost their facility. You know,
Right.
So
their facility and staff and participants, and funding was not available, so they had to just stay afloat with what they could. So but they seem in a very good space right now.
great. And I was glad to see that we're recommending St. Vincent de Paul at Mary Queen of Peace. Yeah, and I know they came to speak a couple times, and they serve a lot of Issaquah. Yeah. So.
thank you for those comments. Commissioners, any other questions or comments in regards to housing continuum? Great work, Madeline. That was a great report out. Okay, just zooming back a little bit and summarizing, I want to see it as a whole here. We are recommending 42 programs. That's 34 organizations. It's not here on the PowerPoint. In fact, that's actually the same number, commissioners, as our last cycle of recommendations. And so I think that was well done on determining impact.
How many new grants it'd be interesting to see what
Good question.
New organizations or new programs?
new.
It's both.
Great question. I didn't become prepared with an answer on that. I can probably give it to you shortly. But I will follow up with you commissioners on that, if that's okay. Yeah, it's a great question.
We need to look at how many
Yeah.
organizations.
There's a few. I think I could count them off real quick if I had a second.
Housing Connector was new and SVDP, Mary Queen of Peace were new. I remember those two specifically.
Okay, each group go into your thing and see who's new on yours.
Those are the two I remember.
Oh, you got this, Manny.
Yeah, keep up, Mary.
Yeah, I can go back and give you
Yeah,
the
we'll get
exact
that.
number. So, but I think each group did have new, at least one new organization
Or program.
and or program.
And I want to commend you for that, commissioners. I was actually sharing this with Hannah earlier this week that I think in Issaquah we have a history of and we should be proud of this, of not being afraid to fund new organizations. I know that there are cities around us who who do not fund new organizations unless other cities have been funding them for several other cycles. And so I think kudos to you for taking a chance on new organizations.
I know in community resources that we looked at the LGBT.
Mhm.
I think it was across, right? I think right across the bridge.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was who it was.
Mhm.
So, we had a couple.
I guess I want to point out in our group, I do remember, was last year or the last funding cycle, was that the first time the circle? That was the first time the circle had applied because
Yes,
they didn't have nonprofit status until then.
before, yeah. Prior to that, the previous cycle, 3 cycles ago, they applied for a grassroots fund because they didn't have yet the 501c3 status. Yes.
Yeah. And so the cycle that we're currently in, I know we gave them 30 and we gave them a significant increase, 42. They asked for 120, but we gave them 42, or we're recommending 42. And I think it's because of the wonderful job they're doing. And, you know, it's been very visible and like I was telling Hannah, with the staffing they have, I don't know how they do it. Yeah. And I will tell you that Bellevue is recommending a significant amount for them as well.
That made me think of another challenge, something you said triggered something, that idea of trying to look at the big picture from, we don't know what the other cities are doing, right? They're looking at some of the same programs and we don't know what they're doing. And there are some organizations that have grants submitted in multiple categories. And again, trying to get that kind of the big picture view of what they're doing and where the money's going and how it's being utilized. It's challenging.
It is challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe, Hannah, we discussed adding another little column that said that this program has X amount of grants in it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that's where also for future cycles, you can also do as a commission. That's when we come together, we could present a different way of presenting. Could be by the organizations and the number of applications, if that's something that you would like to look at. But then again, do you want to do that?
I don't know. That's interesting. Would
that add more bias, less bias?
I don't know.
Right.
That's an interesting. I gotta think about that.
Yeah. And then also to your point with different cities, that's also helpful. But then also sometimes because when we contract with the organizations, they contract for the Issaquah residents and they might contract directly for Bellevue residents. So then, right.
You guys you make a effort to stay away from conflict of interest too. So you start doing that now.
Yeah.
Just gets really complicated, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, commissioners, thank you for some time. I was able to go through the numbers pretty quickly and we have 10 new programs that we are funding. That's a quarter of our recommendation.
Oh, you've already figured it out.
Yes,
Okay.
I will double check my work, but first glance, I've got 10 new programs, not 10 organizations, but that's speaks.
That's interesting.
Great work. Okay, so commissioners, I want to present your options tonight and give some room for discussion. So you have options here where we can continue in our subgroup deliberation. What that would look like would be outside meetings in our subgroups. If commissioners would like to review in more depth or have conversations, if there's any different here tonight, have any different kind of recommendations or considerations within the current recommendations. That means that we will need to meet August 21st to make a final action vote. The other option, after discussion deliberation here tonight, if you feel ready to make a formal decision, you can take action and vote approval without changes. So I will give room for conversation. Before we jump in, I thought it might be helpful just to see a timeline of kind of what next steps are. So after this meeting, we might have either subgroup meetings, and then if we do, we can meet on August 21st, our regular human service time, or if we decide to take action tonight, we can follow the council schedule and recess in August. And And then in August and September is when we plan to take the recommendations to our city mayor. The mayor will present the recommendations to our city council just as part of the larger city budget in September. And then in November is when is the anticipated time for the final approval for the budgeted recommendations. So with that, I'd like to open it up to you all for.
I have a question. So if we went with option one,
Mhm.
our deliberation would only be regarding our subgroup.
Go ahead.
So you would go with option one if any of you do not feel comfortable with what you heard tonight, and any of you feel that certain work needs to be done in one or all other categories. Let's say perhaps you, as a commissioner, you would say, you know, I don't agree with the recommendations in this category, and I would recommend that we go back and review it. So in that case, you would go back to deliberations in your subgroups. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't, so we would go back to the subgroup that we're from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Or we could just, spend time by ourselves looking at it.
Yeah.
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 we can.
Yeah.
So if, as a subgroup, the housing continuum is satisfied with the recommendations you're making tonight, then do all subgroups have to agree on the way forward?
Right, yeah, so then you as a commission, you all need to agree with all other subgroups, right? If you can, yeah, let's say you as a commission, option one, you all agree with all the recommendations you heard tonight and you are okay, then we move to, let's make a formal recommendation. The other option is maybe you, or one of you, or more than one of you, decide that you don't agree with one particular subgroup or with all the other subgroups, then you go back to deliberation. And yes, if maybe it's just one subgroup, then maybe just that one subgroup needs to go back to the deliberations. If it's more than one, then how many subgroups need to go back to deliberation? So that's also a point.
Now, I personally like to find out of the community resources. If I may speak for Maury, I think we're comfortable. And
Right. We're comfortable in
We're
having
comfortable.
continue.
So, are you comfortable
Speaking on Keena's behalf, yes.
in
Am I comfortable with,
With the
your
recommendations you've made up here.
okay, but yes, but I think the question is, do you know enough now from our 45-minute presentation that you're comfortable with the other groups?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And I think that's what is being,
Yes. Yes.
because we have to vote on everything.
Yeah.
I- what I'm just doing is I'm trusting
Right.
you that you did all the reading and all the research, and I'm not going to do that for another 100.
Right.
So.
But then the option that Trish also brought up, and I want to validate that, is also the one that you all individually can decide. I think I'm satisfied, but I still want to review it, and I still want to come back in August and just take a formal decision then. But just know that if between now and August you don't like a recommendation, then it's going to be very difficult to make many changes. Then that's why if you're not satisfied now, it's time to speak up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm willing to go with what the consensus wants. I'm just, when I make recommendations for, $500,000, I usually like to think about it for more than 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I've never had that problem.
And the hope is that all of you had a chance to look at them before the meeting, but you're right, you can.
And I did not look at I knew our recommendations, but I did not look, but I'm willing to do what the consensus is. Yeah.
You don't have to feel pressured to take a decision tonight. We have plenty of time. And, I want to commend you all. You are ahead of the game compared to other commissions who are still deliberating.
I would say I want to hear from the folks on the Zoom or Teams. Lucrecia or Yuma, any thoughts around option one or option two?
This is Lucrecia Choto speaking. I am inclined, like Commissioner Bloor, to take a little time to just read a little bit more before, accepting the final. And it's not because I don't trust what other people have done. It's more just it's my style as well, like Trish is explaining, to basically take some time to make sure that if somebody comes to me, for example, and says, how was this reached? Why was this not done, et cetera, that I feel confident in my ability to respond. And at this time, even though I have looked at some of the other um, subgroups and their recommendations, at this point, I don't feel that I'm comfortable being able to answer the question if would it be posed to me. So that's why I'm inclined to take a little bit more time, but that's just where I'm at right now.
Thank you, Commissioner.
But as you pointed out, if let's say if I came up with something that I really wanted to make a recommendation that maybe be tweaked, it would mean I would need to inform the commission well in advance so that the behavioral health group
So, yes.
can meet.
So, yeah, so what I would recommend, if you commissioners are agreeing to this, and I think all of you bring valid points to the table, I would recommend to decide how much time do you need for review? Is it a week or 2 weeks enough time? And then let's put a deadline to that. And then at the end of that deadline, if you do have recommendations, bring them forward to Hannah. So then what we would do, we would schedule a special meeting. So then we can discuss those, what concerns you have, see if we can take care of them in the special meeting, or if we need to go back to subgroup deliberations. So then we do have time by August 21st to come back. If not, we can just still do August 21st and then be aware that perhaps we might need another special meeting sometimes between August and September. Does that make sense? And that's totally fine. I think I really respect and appreciate all of you. It's taking the time and being thorough than regretting later, because it is a lot of money request. It is, and it's organizations who do great work. And so it's worth spending that time. So totally very supportive.
If after people have opportunity to review and nobody has a suggestion about making a change, can we vote via email?
No.
Oh,
We would still need it if this is an action item.
It's a public,
Okay,
it has
we
to
would-
be done in a public meeting.
Okay. So if we go this route, it means we have to meet.
In August, yes.
Okay.
But we can just have a very short meeting. We can just meet for 10 minutes and,
Yeah.
Bring cookies.
Cookies.
I hear you.
Well, it looks like, we're kind of split on this.
Oh, I think if there's anyone that wants additional time, I completely honor that.
I agree. completely.
Yeah, I'm not,
And that's what I'm hearing from the group is just informed education around the different groups. I don't think anybody's really second guessing.
Right.
I think it's just more like, if I'm gonna be a human services commissioner and someone asks me from the public, I wanna be more informed in each section. So when it gets rolled out, we feel pretty confident moving forward. But to your point, Monica, is trying to figure out some times, because I think it's gonna be a tight deadline for August 21st, that we set some dates to kind of, if there is gonna be some questions around the amounts or groups, I think that might be a different discussion. So I think it's probably good that we decide on some dates.
Like tonight.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right, folks, can you maybe pull up some calendars? And I know it's also vacation season, so want to also respect vacation time. But how long, commissioners, do you feel like you need to spend thorough time in reviewing the other group recommendations? Like a week is long enough, 2 weeks?
Okay, so how about, so 2 weeks would be the end of July.
July 31st.
Is that cutting it short?
No, that would still give us 1 to 3 weeks before meeting, and
Mhm.
I think that seems very reasonable.
2 weeks, commissioners, for those who want to spend more time reviewing the applications?
Then we would meet in August
Mhm.
and
For sure.
either just vote
Mhm.
when we get there and.
Yeah. So next steps will look like, let's set the deadline. Let's give 2 weeks to have further time to review the recommendations. You all have access to the grant applications as well. So if you want to dig into other groups in a little more detail, that gives you 2 weeks. So July 31st will be the deadline. If you have any, yeah. Does that work for you, Lucrecia, and any other commissioners?
Yes.
2 weeks work. Okay, how about Huma, are you there? Okay.
Yes. So 2 weeks. So what I would be looking for then between now and the next 2 weeks is if you find any, as you're reviewing, any questions on programs or any considerations or any other type of suggestions of who to fund or amounts of funding. It really could look like anything. I ask that you email me those considerations.
So if we review everything and we don't have any considerations, do you also need to know that we don't have any further considerations?
It would be helpful, right?
Okay.
Because otherwise we don't
Okay.
wonder.
Yes,
Okay.
I don't want to miss out on accidents. So yes. So if everyone can decide and look at that, either email me saying no recommendations or recommend it as is.
Changes.
Or I have some follow-up questions or I have follow-up considerations. And what that will do is if somebody has a consideration for something in the housing continuum, for example, then I will contact the housing continuum subgroup to then have a further discussion with the new commissioner consideration.
So in the email, you want that consideration listed if it's.
Yes, I would just, it gets a little bit complicated because you're gonna start taking decisions and it should be taken in the public forum. So I wouldn't recommend taking those decisions. Again, you would need to be back as a full group to take those decisions, just because one commissioner is gonna want, let's say, one commissioner is gonna want changes, let's say in the housing continuum, that still needs the approval of the entire commission to move forward with deliberation. So that's why you're gonna need a special meeting to discuss all of those. So yes, ideally do bring whatever considerations you have or concerns, do bring them so we know exactly what's going to be discussed. And then once we hear feedback from everyone, then that's going to create the agenda for the special meeting. Once you have the special meeting, then you break out in the subgroups, then you come back to the large meeting to final vote. Right.
And then, so if there's considerations on the 31st and then a special meeting is needed, then
August 7th.
we would have to either look at,
I'm just keeping it on Wednesdays in case that's what works for
Mhm.
people.
I would have to double check room availability, but
Yeah, there was a police equity board meeting, usually unless they are in recess. So let's check now.
yeah, thinking okay.
Yeah, it's already on
What
the
about
calendar.
Tuesday, August 6th?
The room is available for now.
So that would be our special meeting if needed, correct?
Mhm.
Okay,
Commissioners, are
if
you
that works for everyone.
able to double check your calendars to see if a Tuesday, we'll keep it at the same time at 6:30?
Can we do Monday? That's especially
Monday,
August
the
5th.
5th?
The room is available right now.
On Monday, on Monday, August 5th?
For the possible special commission meeting to discuss the,
Okay, Monday's August 5th. So we're talking about that now, right?
correct.
Okay, yeah, that would work.
Okay,
So I'll take any considerations or questions or anything like that on the 31st. We'll create an agenda packet for that
okay.
special meeting for Monday, the 5th, if it's needed.
Yeah, and you need to publish it. And
Yeah.
I'll let you schedule the room because I'm not going to be here. That's going to be.
Yes, so I'll do that. Thank you, Monica.
Does that work for the folks on the screen? Okay, yeah, okay.
Join us virtually, of course.
And again, you might not have recommendations, right?
So then,
Yeah, but you don't have to meet on the 5th. You can, you can decide to meet on the 5th instead of the 21st and then just make a formal recommendation then, or you can just meet on the 21st.
mhm.
If you don't have any recommendations, you don't need to meet twice, right?
Okay.
If
But-
everybody comes
So
up,
if we
but
don't
if
have
you
recommendations, we can do it on the 5th.
Instead of the 21st.
vote on the 5th instead of the 21st.
Yeah.
If you agree that you would prefer to do that tonight, then yes, you can certainly do that. If it's easier for all of you to meet on the 5th instead of the 21st.
Yeah, because you got to meet on 5th either way.
No, not necessarily. If you
Just
don't have
changes.
recommendations, yeah. If you don't make any changes, you can just meet at the regular meeting day on the
Or a
21st.
short meeting
Yeah.
for the action item, yeah.
And then the difference for all of you to know, which that's why it might be better to leave it for the 21st if you don't have changes, is that if you have a special meeting, you need to stay very strict to the agenda and just that one topic. Whereas if it's a regular meeting where people know about it, then you can have your regular.
Hannah, I'm assuming that this is on a spreadsheet on the SharePoint.
I will add it on.
Okay.
Yeah, you can access it online in the agenda packet, but I will add it to the SharePoint, this version of recommendations.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, thank you for reading that up. I will add that
In Excel,
in Excel, yes,
Yeah.
so you can play around with it.
Yeah. not PDF or anything.
Yeah, you got it.
Not that I intend to play around, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can access it easier. Okay, great, Commissioner. So I think we have our next steps. Then just to recap, deadline for reviewing all applications and other subgroups is July 31st. Email me by or before then with any specific questions, comments, considerations, or suggestions of edits of the current recommendations. If there are some, we will meet for a special meeting on Monday, August 5th at 6:30 here in the Steelhead Room. If there are no recommendations, we will meet at our regular time on Wednesday, August 21st. Excellent. All right. Great work, commissioners. That concludes our report out.
Again, kudos and congratulations, commissioners. I know, long process. And I loved what Manny said earlier about trusting each other. So I think there are pros and cons. All of you have access to all of the applications. But reading all of you, asking you to read 100 applications as a volunteer commission does not seem by far fair. So that's why we created subgroups to divide and conquer, as the good old saying says. And I really, really loved how you said you all respect each other and respect each other's recommendations. But at the same time, it's always good to dive deeper and really understand the entire process, because you are official commissioners and you might be asked in the public. So, you know.
I mean, in the example that Jaime gave, if somebody was to ask me about, behavioral health, something, I don't want to say, oh, another subcommittee
Right, exactly.
took care of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that.
Exactly.
You want to be involved.
Yeah. I mean, I want,
Informed.
yeah,
Because you are taking, your vote, you are taking responsibility for the entire.
right. Yes.
Great. Very, very reasonable.
Well, I want to say too, and on behalf of commissioners, thank you, Hannah and Monica, for, providing guidance, training, referencing the strategic plan as we make decisions to ensure that we're being focused in that regard. Agenda number 5, you have reports, chair and commissioner reports out. Anybody would report from the group? Hearing none. There's youth report as well.
So Preston couldn't be here tonight, but he did email me to let me know he did not have any updates from the Youth Advisory Board. They are on summer break, so he's on vacation.
I would hope that they are.
Exactly. So that's good.
And we do have from our agenda staff report. There was a report attached to our agenda. Either Hannah or Monica want to speak to it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start us off here. So in our staff report, feels like it's been a while since we've done this. We usually like to provide any updates from our mayor or city council, and then other more human services specific items. So the only mayor and city council update I wanted to provide is that in August they will be in recess. Most commissions do follow that schedule as well and take a recess in August. But due to the nature of the work that we're doing, and from our last agenda item, we will be meeting in August 21st. So looking forward to that. And then as far as human services, I just wanted to put on all of your radar and invite you all to join us for a couple of very fun summer events. So the first one is actually next Tuesday, July 23rd. We're going to have, if you're familiar, the city does an annual Chalk Art Festival. This is a free family fun way to, you get free chalk. You go to the Issaquah Community Center. There's ice cream and you can do beautiful artwork. Very fun event that the city does. And in the last couple of years, our human services team, aligned with our strategic plan of providing resource fairs to our community, we partnered with this event, and we have our nonprofit and community partners participate in a resource fair. So that was a huge success the last couple of years. So we're excited to partner with them. So that's going to be from 12 to 2 is the resource fair. However, the chalk art is from 12 to 4. So please consider bringing your families to participate in that. And then another big event, and I will keep reminding you all because this one's a big and a very exciting one in early September, Friday the 6th, starting at 5 p.m. We have our Issaquah Welcomes You event, our Welcoming Week events that we partner with community partners here to have live performances. We'll have food trucks, and we will have we'll have a huge resource fair. I'm excited. The zoo's going to be there with some animals, and we're going to have some henna art and a few other things that we are still planning and figuring out. So more details to come, more wonderful flyers and advertisement coming your way. But I just want to put that on your calendars and radar. And then I see Commissioner Huma. Hello. You're up.
I have a question about Welcoming Week. Is the programming for that set?
No, it's not set. We're still in the planning process. Are you interested in?
There's a violinist, an award-winning violinist from Azerbaijan who now lives in our community, who was wondering if he could connect with you about perhaps performing at Welcoming Week. So
that would be wonderful, Huma. Either if you could do an introduction email or pass on my contact information, that would be wonderful.
Will do.
Yeah, thanks for your help and participation. Really appreciate it. Okay, commissioners, any questions about the fun events? Okay, excellent. Well, I am going to invite Monica here to provide an update on our emergency housing program.
It's hard to come from fun events to updates on the emergency housing program. Thank you, Hannah. Commissioners, you may recall that actually just a year ago, actually on exactly the same day, July 17, I remember it was a Monday, and we launched the pilot emergency housing program.
It's been a year.
It's been a year,
Wow.
and in collaboration with Motel 6. And we earlier this year, we started working with city leadership and administration, with city council, in making plans into turning this program into a permanent program. Until a couple of weeks ago, when we learned from Motel 6 that they are unable to continue the contract with us.
Oh.
They are facing some other concerns that are not related to our program, but they're unable to continue contracting with us as is. And
Did you say their concerns are not due to this
they're
program?
not due to the program at all. They, you might recall last year before our program started, they had a shooting.
Yeah.
So they continue to deal with a lot of pressure and problems related to that. And so they are unable to continue contracting with us. They are open to continue as a one-off on occasions when we need a room here and there, or when we have severe weather, they would love to continue, but not as an intensive program as we were. Like, as you recall, we turned one of the rooms into an office, kind of like moved staff out there. So a little bit of sad news for the entire program, as we know that it's been very beneficial for the community. And so we continue to work with city council, with administration, with the community, and looking for options for that program. And I have no doubt that we will find options. But as it stands right now, we have until August 31st to transition participants and staff out of the program.
The city has to be out of Motel 6 by August 31st.
Yes,
Wow.
This year.
of this year, yes.
That's a shame.
And
Wow.
so definitely a sad news. But we've been working already, looking for other motel options, looking for turning to the faith community to look for rental options, looking for other creative ideas. If you remember, at the very beginning, before the city took on this project to manage it on our own, we tried to find a nonprofit partner who was willing to take on the program. So we are looking at that as well. So we are exploring options. It's probably unlikely that we are going to have an option identified by August 31st. So what I envision, most likely we are going to pause the program for a couple of months and restart it when we are going to find
A new
the
option.
ideal, a new option.
What's going to happen to the staff? Well,
So staff, because these were limited term positions, staff are ending. They are with us until the end of September, but they will be ending their work with the city. So
That's too bad,
That's a
'cause
shame.
I did speak to a resident of the Motel 6, and he was just thrilled to be there. I mean, he was
Oh,
thrilled.
is motel, I mean, this is probably divergent, but are they closing?
not that we know of. Not that we
okay.
know of. No.
Okay.
They just have
Yeah, right.
challenges.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we will update you, and we will continue to work with the city leadership. City
I know it
council,
took a lot of
update
work
you.
on your, I mean, to get it all, a year.
Yeah, but we'll keep the hope up. Maybe even something better will come. Will come our way. So
There's 12 people that are in the program, right? Is that at one time?
typically, it varies. Right now, I think there are 12. Yes, right now there are 12, but we had 15, we had 17, we had it fluctuates depending on.
So what's the max?
The max is 18 or 20.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of.
What kind of
I'm
facility?
trying to think of
Yeah.
some facilities around here.
But yeah, between 10 and 15, I think is perfect at the motel. If every room was double occupant, then
Right.
we would have, 20. But yeah, 15, 10 to 15 accommodating. Okay. So I'm sorry to end with a little bit of a.
Yeah.
We learned a lot from the
I was gonna
pilot.
say, you know a lot more now than you knew a year ago. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other city doing something like that?
Not city operated. No, usually they work with others. So yes, I think it was unique for us to take it on, and it has been successful. And if at minimum 15, we helped through this program about 30 some folks, 33 people, I think.
In and then out?
Yeah, throughout, because we also had, if you remember, we had police standby rooms, and so we had people for short term and longer term. But that means that many less people on the streets of
Right,
our
of
city,
Issaquah, right.
and that's quite a few people. So
Yeah.
More to come.
More to come.
Thank you for the update.
Well, thank you, Monica. We were just talking about back and forth, so August 21st will be our next meeting. If there's any other business, meeting is adjourned.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, commissioners.
You stay,
Great